Just 1 minute ago, a move unfolded behind palace doors that could redefine the monarchy forever. Commonwealth leaders united, deliberate, unwavering, delivered a message so bold it sent tremors through Buckingham Palace. They are refusing to meet Camilla. Instead, they are demanding Catherine represent the crown. This is not rumor. This is not palace gossip. This is a diplomatic earthquake, and the aftershocks are only beginning. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The message did not arrive casually, nor was it whispered through back channels. It came with precision. Within minutes, identical diplomatic correspondence reached London from multiple Commonwealth nations, each echoing the same carefully constructed demand. The tone was measured, almost polite, but beneath the courtesy was iron resolve. Insiders described the wording as respectful but uncompromising, a phrase that now hangs heavily in the air. There was no accusation, no open confrontation, just a firm refusal to engage with Camilla and a clear, unmistakable preference for Catherine. In royal terms, that distinction is seismic. What makes this moment explosive is timing. Camilla had reportedly been scheduled to attend an upcoming summit, her presence already embedded into official plans. Invitations had been issued, security coordinated, preparations finalized, and then suddenly everything froze. Questions surfaced. Schedules stalled. The summit that was meant to project unity now risks exposing fracture. For a monarchy built on symbolism, such disruption is not merely logistical, it is personal, it is political, it is perilous. Behind the scenes, Catherine's name surfaced not as an afterthought, but as the preferred solution, not a substitute, not a compromise, a deliberate choice. Palace insiders are calling the coordination among Commonwealth leaders unprecedented. This was not a single nation expressing discomfort. This was a collective stance, synchronized and intentional. That level of unity suggests something deeper than a passing disagreement. It hints at months, perhaps years, of quiet reflection and shared sentiment among leaders who have decided that the future face of the crown must look different from its present one. Within the first hour of the letters arriving, an emergency meeting was convened inside Buckingham Palace. Advisors were summoned, legal counsel consulted, senior aides instructed to clear schedules and seal communications. A media blackout was ordered almost immediately, an attempt to contain what could rapidly spiral into a global spectacle. But even as efforts were made to suppress the shockwave, whispers began slipping through the cracks. Diplomats talk, staff notice. Silence, ironically, often screams the loudest. And then came the most unsettling realization of all. This may not be sudden at all. Sources close to the situation suggest this demand is the culmination of long-building dissatisfaction. Subtle signals that were once dismissed as minor protocol preferences now appear in a new light. Shortened meetings, carefully chosen words, lukewarm receptions. Each moment, insignificant on its own, now threads together into a pattern that cannot be ignored. This is no longer about a single summit. It is about legitimacy. It is about trust. It is about who the Commonwealth believes truly embodies the spirit of the modern crown. And as the palace grapples with a decision that could either reinforce unity or expose division, one question lingers with unsettling clarity. How did it come to this? But to understand why Commonwealth leaders would take such a dramatic step, we must go back months, perhaps even years, to tensions quietly simmering beneath the royal surface. This demand did not emerge from thin air. It grew in silence, in private meetings, in closed-door diplomatic exchanges. For months, perhaps longer, subtle signals suggested something was wrong. Subtle discomfort during royal tours, carefully worded statements, leaders opting for shorter engagements. What the world saw as protocol may have masked something deeper, a quiet shift in loyalty toward Catherine. Long before the letters reached London, the tone had already begun to change. During previous Commonwealth visits, there were moments that passed without headlines, but did not go unnoticed by those watching closely. When Catherine entered a room, conversations seemed to lengthen, handshakes lingered, and discussions turned unexpectedly candid. Leaders spoke of partnership, of shared futures, of renewal. When Camilla represented the crown, the atmosphere, while respectful, felt more restrained. Engagements were efficient. Speeches were measured. The warmth, some noted privately, felt thinner. At first, these were dismissed as minor variations in personality. But over time, the contrast grew impossible to ignore. Behind closed doors, quiet praise for Catherine began to circulate among diplomats. They described her composure as steady, her instincts as sharp but restrained. She listened more than she spoke. She adapted her tone to the concerns of each nation. There was, they said, a sense of emotional intelligence that resonated with a younger generation of leaders seeking connection rather than ceremony. None of this was public criticism of Camilla. It did not need to be. The shift was subtle, but it was real. At the same time, murmurs about Camilla's perceived influence began to surface. Some leaders questioned whether her presence represented continuity or complication. They wondered how much of her role was symbolic and how much was strategic. In diplomatic circles, perception can carry as much weight as policy. Even a whisper of imbalance can alter alliances, and while no formal grievances were lodged, the unease lingered, growing in the spaces between official smiles. The generational divide within the Commonwealth added fuel to the tension. Younger leaders, newly elected and driven by modernization, were not as bound by deference to tradition. They admired the monarchy's history, but they also demanded relevance. To them, Catherine symbolized evolution without rebellion, stability wrapped in renewal. She was seen as the future embodied in the present. Camilla, by contrast, was viewed as a continuation of a chapter some felt had already closed emotionally, if not politically. Inside the palace, these shifting currents were not entirely invisible. Advisors tracked reception data. Briefings noted subtle diplomatic adjustments. There were internal discussions acknowledging that Catherine's international appeal was growing at a pace that outstripped expectations. Yet early warning signs were reportedly minimized. Tradition would hold, some believed. Loyalty would prevail. The crowd had weathered storms before, but storms rarely announce themselves with thunder at first. They begin as pressure, a change in wind, a tension that feels almost imperceptible until it becomes impossible to contain. What many dismissed as minor diplomatic preferences now appears to have been the foundation of a coordinated stance. The demand for Catherine was not spontaneous. It was the end point of a long, quiet recalibration. And while the diplomatic currents were shifting abroad, inside the palace walls, a far more personal tension was beginning to take shape. For Camilla, this was more than a scheduling dispute. It was a direct challenge to her authority, a refusal not just to attend a meeting, but to recognize her role. Those close to the palace describe a moment of stunned silence when the message was read aloud, because beneath the formality of diplomacy was something unmistakable, a withdrawal of confidence. To understand the depth of that silence, you have to understand the distance she traveled to stand where she stands now. Camilla's path to legitimacy was not paved with applause. It was carved through years of scrutiny, resistance, and public doubt. She endured headlines that questioned her presence, whispers that doubted her worth, and a nation divided over whether she could ever truly belong at the center of the crown. Slowly, deliberately, she rebuilt her image. She committed to duty. She softened perceptions. She waited for acceptance rather than demanding it. And just when it seemed that the battle for public recognition had finally quieted, this new storm arrived sharper, colder, and international in scale. What makes this moment especially brutal is its symbolism. The Commonwealth's refusal is not loud or theatrical. It is measured, controlled. That restraint makes it devastating, because it implies not outrage, but decision, not anger, but conclusion. For someone who fought so long to be seen as legitimate, to now face a coordinated diplomatic preference for someone else feels like history repeating itself in a different language. The stage is grander, the stakes are higher, but the underlying wound feels hauntingly familiar. There have long been quiet rumors of strained relationships with certain Commonwealth figures. Nothing explosive, nothing formally acknowledged, yet in diplomatic corridors, tension can exist without confrontation. Some leaders reportedly questioned whether Camilla represented continuity of tradition or the shadow of past controversies. Whether fair or unfair, perception shapes power, and perception, once formed, is difficult to reverse. Inside the palace, debate ignited almost immediately. Should the monarchy respond firmly, defend the position of the Queen Consort, and refuse to yield? Or should it prioritize unity and consider the practical advantages of sending Catherine instead? The argument was not purely strategic, it was deeply personal. Every option carried emotional consequences: protect Camilla and risk international fracture. Accommodate the request and risk undermining her authority in ways that may never fully recover. At the center of it all stands Charles, reportedly placed in a position no monarch envies. Husband and king, protector and strategist, his loyalty to Camilla has defined decades of his life, yet his duty to preserve the crown's stability demands cold calculation. Advisors have warned of symbolic humiliation if the demand is accepted. They caution that once one precedent is set, others may follow. Today, it is a summit. Tomorrow, it could be something far greater. As for Camilla's private reaction, accounts describe controlled composure masking deeper hurt. No public outburst, no visible anger, just a quiet reckoning with the possibility that acceptance once thought secured may still be conditional. And in that fragile space between pride and vulnerability, the monarchy itself seems to teeter. Yet, while one queen's position appeared to tremble, another figure stood at the center of the unfolding storm, calm, composed, and increasingly unavoidable. They did not simply reject Camilla, they named Catherine. That is what changes everything, because this was not a vague request for another representative. It was specific, direct, intentional. Catherine, a future queen but not yet crowned. Why would leaders bypass the present queen consort for someone still ascending? That single choice carries a weight that reverberates far beyond protocol. Catherine has, over the years, cultivated an image that feels almost untouchable in its steadiness. She rarely speaks impulsively. She rarely missteps publicly. In a world where controversy spreads in seconds, her consistency has become its own quiet power. To many across the Commonwealth, she represents calm in an age of turbulence, not dramatic, not divisive, but reliable. And reliability in uncertain times becomes magnetic. Her diplomatic approach has never been loud. It has been deliberate. During past engagements, she did not dominate conversations. She absorbed them. Leaders noticed. They spoke later, in private, about her capacity to connect without appearing strategic. She asked questions that felt personal, not political. She remembered names, causes, concerns. That emotional intelligence, subtle, yet sharp, left impressions that lasted long after ceremonies ended. In diplomacy, memory is currency. Catherine seemed to spend it wisely. There is also symbolism woven into this demand. Catherine stands at the intersection of tradition and transformation. She honors the rituals of monarchy without appearing trapped by them. To younger generations within Commonwealth nations, she feels contemporary without being radical. She is perceived not as a break from the crown, but as its evolution. That distinction matters, because what the leaders are signaling is not rebellion, it is preference. A preference for a future they believe she embodies. Reports now suggest that some leaders privately advocated for her involvement long before this public stance materialized. They viewed her presence as a stabilizing force, someone who could navigate modern sensitivities without igniting old controversies. The idea may have circulated quietly at first, dismissed as speculation, but repetition breeds momentum. And momentum, when shared across nations, becomes coordinated resolve. Yet amid the rising chorus of support, Catherine's own response has reportedly been measured, even cautious. She understands the implications. Accepting this role could elevate her international standing overnight. It could also deepen internal fault lines within the royal family. Public expectation surges toward her, like a wave praise, admiration, anticipation. But privately, the calculation is heavier. She is not yet queen. To step forward now might be interpreted as overreach. To step back might be seen as weakness. This is where the emotional tension sharpens. Catherine has spent years ascending with patience, never appearing to grasp for prominence. Now prominence is being placed at her feet by forces beyond her control. The world sees opportunity. The palace sees risk. And somewhere between those two perceptions stands a woman aware that every decision she makes will echo for decades. Because if she accepts, she does more than attend a summit. She steps into a role that subtly reshapes hierarchy. She becomes, in the eyes of the Commonwealth, the face of the monarchy's future before the crown formally rests upon her head. That shift is powerful, and power, even when granted, carries consequence. But beneath Catherine's composed exterior lies a decision that could redefine royal power dynamics forever. Imagine standing between your wife and your future queen. That is the position Charles now faces. Support Camilla and risk alienating global partners. Appoint Catherine and risk wounding the woman who stood beside him for decades. This is not merely diplomacy, this is deeply personal. For Charles, loyalty has never been abstract. His commitment to Camilla was forged through years of scrutiny, resistance, and relentless public judgment. He fought for her acceptance when doing so cost him popularity. He defended her place when critics insisted it would never feel legitimate. Over time, he believed that battle had been won. Camilla stood beside him, not as a controversial figure, but as queen consort recognized, formal, secured. To now face an international rejection of her representation is not just a political inconvenience. It strikes at the very foundation of what he worked so long to protect. Yet Charles is not only a husband, he is sovereign. And sovereignty demands calculation over comfort. His vision has always centered on projecting a united royal front, a family, aligned, steady, disciplined. Fractures, especially public ones, erode confidence. The Commonwealth's demand threatens to expose those fractures in a way no internal disagreement ever could. If he refuses their request, he risks appearing rigid, disconnected from shifting global sentiment. If he accepts it, he risks signaling that the crown itself is negotiable under pressure. Advisors have reportedly urged pragmatism. They argue that diplomacy must outweigh emotion, send Catherine, preserve relationships, contain fallout. But pragmatism carries its own cost. What message does it send to Camilla, to the public, to the institution? The fear whispered in strategies. Essions is not just about this summit, it is about precedent. If one international body can influence representation, others may follow. The monarchy's authority, rooted in continuity, could begin to look reactive instead of resolute. Inside the royal household, the strain is said to be palpable. Conversations stretch long into the night. Voices rise, then fall into heavy silence. Each option feels like sacrifice. Camilla's position is vulnerable. Catherine's rise accelerates. Charles stands at the center, absorbing both pressures. History offers uncomfortable parallels, moments when monarchs were forced to choose between personal devotion and institutional survival. Those decisions shaped eras. Some strengthened the crown. Others fractured it beyond repair. Charles understands the weight of symbolism better than anyone. He knows that crowns are not just worn, they are perceived. And perception, once altered, rarely reverts. If Catherine steps forward now, she may unofficially become the Commonwealth's preferred face of the monarchy, years before succession demands it. That shift would be subtle yet profound. It would not dethrone Camilla, but it would recalibrate hierarchy in ways impossible to undo. The deeper conflict, however, lies within Charles himself. Duty commands him to protect the stability of the realm. Loyalty urges him to shield the woman who endured so much to stand beside him. In that collision of responsibility and love, the human cost becomes stark. A king can command armies, sign laws, address nations, but he cannot silence the tension between heart and crown. And as deliberations stretched into the early hours, word of the standoff began leaking beyond palace walls. The moment whispers reached the press, the story detonated. Headlines questioned authority. Commentators debated symbolism. Social media erupted into factions overnight. In a single news cycle, what began as a diplomatic disagreement transformed into a global referendum on royal relevance. It started with a single leaked phrase, respectful but uncompromising. 4 words that ignited speculation across continents. Analysts dissected every syllable, asking what exactly had been demanded and why the tone felt so final. Was this a polite suggestion or a calculated ultimatum? Newsrooms scrambled to confirm details. Anonymous sources multiplied. Each new fragment of information intensified the sense that something historic was unfolding in real time. Then the debate crystallized into a sharp, irresistible narrative. Future versus present. Catherine versus Camilla. not as rivals by declaration, but as symbols of two different chapters of monarchy. Comment threads exploded. Some defended Camilla fiercely, arguing that to sideline her was an insult to the crown's continuity. Others championed Catherine as the embodiment of renewal, insisting that the Commonwealth had simply voiced what many had long felt privately. The conversation moved beyond policy and into identity. What kind of monarchy does the modern world want? Public sympathy fractured almost immediately. For some, this felt like another chapter in Camilla's lifelong battle for acceptance, a woman once again measured against an ideal she did not create. For others, it felt like destiny accelerating, Catherine stepping naturally into a role that seemed almost preordained. Emotional loyalty clashed with pragmatic reasoning. The divide was not clean. It cut through generations, nations, even families. Television panels turned constitutional overnight. Experts debated the technical authority of Commonwealth leaders. Could they truly influence representation? Was this a breach of protocol or an evolution of partnership? Legal scholars weighed in with cautious language, but the emotional narrative was louder than any statute. Palace silence only magnified the frenzy. Each hour without an official response fueled theories. Was the delay strategic? Was there internal conflict? Silence, in a media storm, becomes its own statement. International outlets amplified the tension further. What began in London now reverberated in capitals across Africa, the Caribbean, the Pacific. Leaders were asked directly whether they stood by the reported demand. Some offered measured replies, others refused to comment, but even restraint signaled seriousness. This was no passing controversy. It had become a global spectacle. Polling data began circulating within days. Younger demographics leaned heavily toward Catherine as representative of the crown's future. Older generations expressed concern over undermining established hierarchy. The numbers did not deliver a clear mandate, they revealed a divide. And divides, once public, are difficult to mend. Pressure mounted for clarity. Advisors warned that prolonged ambiguity could erode confidence faster than any decision itself, yet any announcement would inevitably disappoint one side. The monarchy, built on stability, now found itself at the mercy of momentum. But beyond headlines and hashtags, the true stakes lie in what this decision means for the crown itself. This is bigger than one meeting, bigger than one queen. The Commonwealth's demand signals a deeper transformation, a test of whether the monarchy evolves or resists. For centuries, the crown has survived by adapting. But adaptation has always come at a cost, and tonight, that cost feels closer than ever. History whispers warnings in moments like this. The monarchy has never remained powerful by standing still. It shifted after abdications. It recalibrated after public scandals. It softened its tone when nations demanded independence. Each time, survival required adjustment, sometimes subtle, sometimes seismic. Those adjustments preserved the crown, but they also reshaped it. Titles changed, roles evolved, influence recalculated. Now, the Commonwealth's unified stance feels like another turning point waiting to be defined. What makes this moment uniquely charged is the symbolism of that unity. The Commonwealth is not a single voice, it is a coalition of histories, cultures, and expectations. When multiple leaders align behind a request so specific, it carries weight beyond diplomacy. It suggests that the future of the monarchy, at least in their eyes, must reflect a generational shift. Younger leaders want partnership over pageantry. They want relevance over ritual. Catherine, to them, appears to embody that recalibration without dismantling tradition entirely, but symbolism cuts both ways. If Catherine becomes the de facto diplomatic anchor before her time, what does that mean for Camilla's long-term role? Even without formal demotion, perception alone can redraw hierarchy. Influence is not always defined by title, it is shaped by visibility and trust. If global leaders begin consistently preferring Catherine's presence, the balance inside the royal structure may tilt quietly, yet permanently. That tilt may never be announced, yet everyone would feel it. Advisors reportedly warn that the monarchy's equilibrium is more fragile than it appears. Public confidence depends on clarity. Internal unity depends on respect. If the outside world begins to treat Catherine as the principal face of the crown, while Camilla holds the official title, The optics could suggest rivalry where none may formally exist. Even whispers of internal competition can destabilize an institution built on continuity. And once that narrative gains momentum, controlling it becomes nearly impossible. There is also a deeper question unfolding beneath the surface. How far can the monarchy evolve without losing its core? Evolution invites progress, but it also invites scrutiny. Each concession risks appearing reactive. Each resistance risks appearing outdated. The line between adaptation and instability is thin, and it is rarely visible until it has been crossed. Charles must weigh not only this summit, but the legacy it sets. If he acknowledges the Commonwealth's demand, he signals responsiveness and strategic flexibility. If he resists, he asserts authority and loyalty to established order. Both choices protect something, both endanger something else. That is the paradox of leadership in moments of transformation. For Catherine, the path forward may elevate her status beyond expectation. For Camilla, it may test the durability of acceptance once thought secure. For the Commonwealth, it may define how much influence they truly hold over the monarchy's public face. And for the Crown itself, this is not merely about representation, it is about identity. And now, as the palace prepares to respond, a single decision may quietly redraw the monarchy's future. The final decision has not yet been publicly announced, but inside palace corridors, history is already shifting. Because whichever path is chosen, uphold Camilla's role or elevate Catherine, the monarchy will never return to what it was before this moment. One signature, one announcement, irreversible shift. Private consultations are reportedly nearing their conclusion. Senior advisors move carefully, weighing language, optics, precedent. Every phrase of a potential statement has been drafted and redrafted, examined not just for clarity but for consequence. There is no room for improvisation. This is not simply about who attends a summit. It is about the architecture of authority. If Catherine is appointed to represent the Crown, the message will ripple across continents. The future has arrived early. If Camilla remains in place, the monarchy asserts continuity, signaling that it does not bend under coordinated pressure. Each option carries strength, each carries risk. Choosing Catherine would likely calm diplomatic waters almost instantly. Commonwealth leaders would interpret it as responsiveness, even partnership. It could reinforce her emerging status as a unifying figure on the global stage, accelerating her influence before the formal passage of time crowns her fully. Yet such a move would inevitably recalibrate internal dynamics. Titles may remain unchanged, but perception would evolve. Catherine would become, in practice, the diplomatic anchor of the monarchy. That transformation would not be written in law, but it would be etched into memory. Supporting Camilla, however, comes with its own strategic logic. It affirms hierarchy. It protects the dignity of the Queen Consort. It signals resolve, that it also risks prolonging tension with Commonwealth nations that have drawn a clear line. Refusal could deepen fractures, inviting further challenges down the road. And in an era where relevance shapes survival, the monarchy cannot ignore the power of collective sentiment. The calculation is not just political, it is existential. Within the royal family, emotional undercurrents run deep. Camilla's composure masks vulnerability. Catherine's restraint conceals awareness of what is at stake. Charles bears the weight of both women's futures, aware that whichever path he chooses will echo beyond this crisis. There are no villains in this chapter, only competing visions of stability. Loyalty collides with legacy, duty collides with devotion, and the silence between conversations grows heavier by the hour. Outside palace gates, anticipation has reached fever pitch. Commentators speculate endlessly. Citizens debate in living rooms and online forums. Commonwealth leaders wait, not impatiently, but expectantly. Their message has been delivered. Now they await the Crown's response. The world senses that something larger than a single appearance is unfolding, that this decision may quietly signal the beginning of a new royal era. If Catherine steps forward, future engagements may be restructured, with her presence becoming more central than ever before. If Camilla remains the chosen representative, the monarchy may double down on tradition, reinforcing its established order with renewed firmness. Either path redraws the map, either path leaves a mark that cannot be erased. There is a strange stillness before announcements of this magnitude. A pause where everything feels suspended. But beneath that stillness, momentum builds. History does not shout when it changes. It shifts quietly, in signatures and statements, in choices made behind closed doors. And once shifted, it does not return. And as dawn approaches, one truth becomes impossible to ignore: the crown may still shine, but its balance has changed forever. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.